Hello and welcome to the Unofficial Controller Podcast, your weekly gaming podcast. Episode 6, N64, the history of the Nintendo 64. With me, George, and as always joined by Tom, Super Mario 64 to my Super Man 64. How's it going, Tom?
I'm alright, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good, and the question that unlocks the rest of the show is, what have you been playing?
I've been playing some more Days Gone. I think we've got a bit of an apology to make with that.
Well,
to everyone.
We've played more. Obviously.
We have played more, a lot more.
I don't think we beat down on the game that hard. And
no, I
think
think
a strong word, but we
weren't in love with the game, were we?
No, but we were talking about this off the podcast, and I've thought more about this today.
Yeah.
Is it so eloquent in a way to make you feel so uncomfortable when you're playing it and there's no feeling of safety? There is no Deku tree in Days Gone. There's no sort of warm little village to learn your skills. You're thrown out there in the feral wilds. And to me, I was looking back when I first started playing it, I didn't like it because I felt uncomfortable. I felt exposed at every gameplay turn. And that made me nervous, and I think that translated into my feelings towards it when I played it.
That's a really good point. I think my problems with it at the start were coming off the not bad reviews, but like the hype had just suddenly ground to a halt, and we shouldn't let that affect us too much. We should make our own decisions. But I wasn't overly in love with it when I was playing it, but after getting past that sort of 9-10 hour mark, I'm really enjoying it now.
Yeah,
the story's really picked up. Got to a different area, which
should we let the listeners know which area that is?
So you go south on the map.
Yeah.
There's another camp there, and the story really kicks into gear. Feel a lot more
the Lost Lake area as
we
feel where the game finds its feet.
And there's a couple of moments we both talked about that are really good. We're not going to spoil them for you. We hope you enjoy them when you get to them as well. But yeah, it's really changed my opinion of it. I mean, I'm still not going to go crazy and give it a 9 or a 10 out of 10. I think I'd give it an 8.
I'm inching towards a 9 every single time I play it more. I've not been on the PS4 this week as much as I'd like.
Yeah.
But when I have been on it, I've been playing Days Gone, and it was one of those moments where that feeling of dread dropped when I stumbled across a horde for the sort of second time. And
yeah, I've still not got the bottle to try and take one of those on yet. I kind of sit around the outskirts peeking, going, I'm going to get one. And then leg it on the bike.
On the map, there's one. There's an aero checkpoint near like a rail area and a lake, and I went up there and I took the mics out, the speakers. We always call them mics on this show. I don't know why they're speakers. I took the mics out, or thought I did, and snuck round, felt really stealthy. And I popped over the brow of this little hill and saw more freakers, as they're known in this game, than I've seen at any point in time in the game.
Yeah.
And I went round feeling all cocky, started up the generator. I'd left one of those speakers and shot down there, and a whole horde came round me. I got trapped in the Nero checkpoint. I had to keep redoing it. My bike was literally in the middle of this swarm as well. It was a joyous experience, but at the same time, we talked about this off air, but dying in this game, it's very much like The Last of Us. You don't want to die.
Yeah, you really want to survive.
Brutal, you really want to survive.
Another thing I'm enjoying is the upgrades on my bike. It feels like a real sort of bit of an off-roader now, mixed with a cruiser, which is, I guess, what the bike is.
Edging towards being almost a little bit too quick for my gaming skills. There was a point where, the upper speed, you could just hold the trigger down and just absolutely blast through, very little adjustments. And
I do like the way they feathered that throttle onto the right trigger.
When you're in the flow with that game, and I haven't got the uprated shocks yet, but you come off a crest of a hill, and you move your bike. Well, you move your bike or your position on the bike in the air, and then you sort of come down. Really, really cool. You feel connected to it. Well, I did actually hear an interview where loads of employees from Sony Bend went and bought similar motorbikes for use in their own personal private time, so they could really refine the whole bike.
You can definitely see the love for Oregon in there, and the way it's replicated. I got to an area where it snows and experienced like the real time like weather effect was awesome.
Did you see it like slowly building up on your clothes?
And if you're on the bike, obviously it's building up on your legs like really quick, as it would in real life.
I've got some really
fantastic.
great. I've been deep in photo mode, and there's one where the snow's landed on the ground and it's formed that like almost shiny crystalline.
No need for the graphic enhancer on those sort of quality graphics.
It looks. I've took loads of shots. I mean, it's probably one of those times where you feel like, you know, David Bailey. You're lying on the digital floor and you're taking shots of this guy. Like, oh yeah, so impactful, means so much to me. The last time I went in the photos folder on the PS4 was in a desperate attempt to try and find more space on the hard drive. And I'm sure I'll go back there at a moment in time and it'll be a joyous experience.
It's nice to have the photo mode, isn't it? Just to appreciate the graphics sometimes. I used it a fair bit on God of War and Red Dead Redemption 2.
Sometimes in games it just feels right, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just to have a little play. Again, like photos we take on our real life cameras, we don't ever really often that look at them.
If any of the listeners have got any sort of great screenshots, we'd love to sort of see them. If you can direct messages.
Yes, please.
On social media.
He can't hold himself back this week. He's like a dog on the leash. He's been in all day. The owner's come home, let him out. He's nipping at the door. He can't hold himself back.
Yeah, you can post some of those on direct messages on Twitter and Instagram, and you can also. Can they reach us with picture messages?
What, on the email?
Yeah.
Tom, it's 21st century. It's probably, I don't know what century it is. Whatever century it is, that's totally doable.
Excellent. I'm not a tech man.
They can email us, questions at unofficialcontrol.com.
The green screen computers as far as I go, really.
Well, you talk of the green screen. I checked in with Mum. She's not been putting the pounds in the meter.
Oh, damn.
So we've only got 3, well, I stand corrected. 4 little bits of news.
Interesting.
And Tom, what if I told you? Well, hang on a minute. Before we start, the immortal preamble. We've scoured the very darkest regions of the internet to bring you the latest stories. Tom, first up, what if I told you that for $4.99 a month you could play Peggle? Possibly.
I would be asking, what is Peggle and who's that made by?
Cheeky little EA game launched way back in the day. Electronic Arts is bringing the EA Access service to PS4, which offers early access trials to new games and a slew of existing games as part of the Vault to PlayStation 4 this July, broke the publisher on Tuesday. EA Access for PS4 will cost $4.99 a month or $29.99 annually, the same price as the existing EA Access service on the Xbox One. A full list of games is yet to be confirmed, but PS4's EA library may be slim, and the chances are we won't have access to Peggle on PS4. Sad. I think that this is obviously a lot of manufacturers or publishers. Obviously, we've seen the big 3 foist up marketplaces and pay-to-stream game services, and EA feels they're capable of joining the ranks, and they've thrown themselves up there. I think $4.99 a month's a bit steep. Especially for the PS4 owners. I mean, the Xbox One guys, I can maybe get it, but
you compare that to like the Switch Online, which, don't get me wrong, is not great. That's got some problems, but you're talking about a major online service.
Yeah.
And this is like a streaming service. Are they going to be offering like back catalogue games from their previous library?
The Vault.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, but because the PlayStation 4's the first PlayStation to run on this more normal hardware configuration, the back catalogue starts at the PS4 for the PS4's Vault, as far as I can find out.
Yeah, that's no good. I'm talking like,
well, that's
right back in the day.
Well, if you pay the money on Xbox, $4.99 a month, you can play Peggle.
Great.
I had to browse through with like EA have got some great games. I'm sure this would be a great way of accessing the title we covered a few weeks ago, the Star Wars game.
Yeah,
but It seems
It's
a lot of
another
money.
monthly subscription, so we've all got our.
Saying that, hang on. Devil's advocate here. $29.99 annually.
That's true. If
How
you compare
much
that to
is
price of a
FIFA?
game, yeah.
Are you going to get FIFA bundled in with this? Probably.
Oh, so you mean like when FIFA launches, it will
new
be
one,
a bit like the Xbox has done with Forza and Sea of Thieves. and such.
Again, we need more details.
Yeah.
I know that's how it works.
So we don't know if it's like the brand new first party, like EA's core games.
You kind of get a sniff of those from what I can work out.
Yeah. Interesting, but a little bit steep, we're thinking.
Yes, I think so. Do you want me to read off with this one? Another hot bit of news?
Yeah, hit us up with this next bit of news.
You didn't let me down. We let each other down. Xbox news in a report over on GameSpot. A game we neglected to mention last week, amongst many, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But the cancellation of Scalebound, the Bayonetta developer Platinum Games action RPG Scalebound, was one of the biggest news stories of 2017. Microsoft, the game's publisher, took a lot of the heat about the cancellation, but Platinum boss Atsushi Inaba says Platinum is to blame as well.
Great pronunciation on his name.
Do you know what? I just surfed through.
You nailed that one.
Oh, slipped out
Good
the other
stuff.
end. Looking, again, as always, we're silky smooth. And then whenever we've done, it's almost like, Mummy, come and watch me jump.
Yeah,
And
and
we
then
do
the next jump, you broke your leg.
Yeah, exactly. And
Off to
literally now I
A&E.
broke my leg. Both and like a grown-up, we talk of Mumsy. Let's look here at the grown-ups here, Mr. Atsushi and the guys down at Xbox have just been very grown up about this, and they're saying that they failed each other. The game didn't do all the things we needed it to do as a developer, he says. He went on to say it wasn't easy to watch fans yell at Microsoft over Scalebound's cancellation. The reality is, he says, when any game is in development, it can't get released because both sides failed. I think there are areas where we could have done better, and I'm sure there are the areas that Microsoft, as a publishing partner, wish they could have done better too, because nobody wants to be cancelling a game. The studio head said Platinum learned a lot of painful lessons from Scalebound's cancellation, and these lessons have helped the studio grow. Neither Microsoft nor Platinum have said why Scalebound was cancelled, but Inaba acknowledged the game might have been announced too early in development. Now that's something that we hear of quite a lot, Tom. A game gets announced and, you know...
Yeah, it does seem to happen every so often.
Elder Scrolls and Bethesda seem to be ones of recent memory where they've like announced that they're working on a game that's set to be announced to be, you know, Elder Scrolls 6. We're working on it. No more news. No doubt we're not going to hear anything for a long time. It's And Scalebound, I missed all of that kerfuffle. What
So
was that
I
about?
still had the Xbox One at that point, so I was really interested in it. It looked right up my street. I'm a big fan of Platinum games. It got cancelled, and it was pretty gutting really, because again it was a big title to look forward to exclusively on Xbox, and it's one that's gone
What
away.
was the, just refine for me and the listeners, just to the uninitiated, break down to me what sort of game Scalebound was.
It's like Leia but good. No, it's a similar.
Like Leia.
You have a dragon,
Oh,
and you
God.
can ride it round, and you can go around on foot as well. A third-person action adventure.
Right. You see, I always saw it more as a Monster Hunter style, but it was.
It
more
looked quite similar.
Did you fight monsters in it, or did you just ride around on this dragon fight?
But I believe there were other
baddies.
monsters in it. Yeah,
as we call them.
I only saw like the main reveal trailer, and then kind of obviously kept me on it a little bit, and then the next thing you know, it's cancelled. But I do wonder whether anyone will pick that up, or whether Microsoft will pass it on. I think sometimes when it's in development and they're really not happy with it, they probably will just scrap it fully.
There was a little bit of talk on the green screen about the Switch maybe picking up a copy, but apparently,
I don't know where it'd run that.
well,
Although it's
scaled
surprising,
down,
yeah.
Scalebound might just work out. But from what I could understand, it was
Scale down bound.
eastbound and down,
Whoa, Black Betty.
loaded up and trucking. Tom,
Moving on.
moving on. What you got? What you got to tell me?
Dante set to make you cry all over again on the Switch. Dante is coming to play on the Switch. Capcom has revealed that their very first Devil May Cry is coming to the platform sometime this summer. so no official release date. The announcement didn't mention whether this will be a straight port of the PS2 original or based on the more recent HD collection we received. Devil May Cry has never been on a Nintendo platform, Itsuno told VG 24/7. So it seems like the first thing to do would to be get Capcom to put Devil May Cry 1 on a Nintendo platform in some way, shape or form, whatever game that might be. Listeners, does this also mean we might see Dante jump into the battle on Smash Brothers? Keep your eyes peeled. This may be where you heard it first.
You know, chucking out little nuggets like that, Tom, is what's going to make you famous on the internet as some sort of like, you know, internet news
clairvoyant
gaming guru. A few more spaces set to be confirmed. Could well happen.
Yeah, it'd be strange if it does look like it is Devil May Cry 1 only.
Are you going to get all misty-eyed and PS2 reminisce and pick that up on the Switch?
No, not with having 5. It's kind of
lacking some good games on that machine.
On the Switch, I don't know. We just seem to get like so many ports of everything. It's another discussion for another day, but
we'll go into that another day.
That's a rabbit hole.
More importantly, though, Devil May Cry still stands up. I mean, I've played it recently on PS2 and had a cracking time with it.
But the thing is, having played 5 is like a refinement of all the other games, and the gameplay is so tight and precise. Graphically, it looks amazing.
Let's just
going back to 1 is gonna.
Let's just extrapolate this back a moment. Tom's seen Last Jedi. It's as good as it can get as far as effects is concerned. The story's fresh. It's got all the hit moments and beats that we need. Tom doesn't ever need to watch New Hope again.
It's a good comparison. I see what you're trying to say.
Come on, that first game. It's the vibes when you're playing it. The history behind the fact that it was meant to be like Resident Evil 4 before it got canned and rebooted and other bits and bobs. That's a pretty cool game. You know.
Again,
they've brought out a new roller coaster. Well, I'm not riding the old one anymore.
I think they should have just put the collection on there. It's available on so many others, and it's not like the Switch can't run Devil May Cry 4.
You're thinking like a customer. You're not thinking like a businessman. He gives you one today. Awesome. He gives you the collection today. Hang on a minute. If he gives you the collection, there's no more biscuits to give. If he lets you nibble on one, and then 3 months later lets you nibble on 2, then 3 months later you can have gorge yourself on 3.
Dirty.
Hey, I'm just saying.
Just telling it how like it is.
That's how Lucas would do it.
He'd have some merch. Dante
Tom,
plush.
I guess that's it for news.
No. There's more Overwatch news.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry, I can't help myself.
There's more ham here than a butcher's front window.
Overwatch's Havana map is now live.
Oh my goodness.
The Overwatch patch 1.35.1.1 is now... Speaking in Morse code there, is now live, and that means grab your shades and cigars. We're going to Havana, the capital city of Cuba, and also the location of the game's newest escort map, which is now off the PTR and in full rotation. I haven't played it myself yet. I'm looking forward to trying that out.
Call yourself a fan of Overwatch.
I think it's random maps, you see, so I don't get to experience it all the time. Here's what players have to look forward to on their adventures in the famed city of Columns. Begin your trip at the Tala de Sebastian, where the classic cars that line Havana's bustling streets stop for refueling and repair.
Let me just pull up a seat, because this is awesome.
Escort a truck of rum barrels on the sun-drenched cobblestone roads, fighting off those who try to stop you. As you make your way, duck into colourful building to escape enemy fire and savour the impressive flavours of Havana at La Cocina de Miranda or Café de Sol. Battle your opponents through the alleys until you reach the Don Rubotico Rum Distillery, a once little-known local treasure that has recently earned international acclaim. Finally, guide the jalopy through the distillery to its destination at the Havana Seafort, a historical landmark recently purchased by an anonymous financial group and closed to the public.
I'm sure to someone out there, the Overwatch fanboy, who pulled themselves nearer to the speaker so they could get a little bit more of this info, their heads have just exploded. Not only is the wonderful globe-trotting Overwatch recently included the Baptician, the Haitian...
Baptician, Haitian.
I mean, every week I stumble over my own lips, and once again I've done it. Fallen. They now bring in Havana map, where you can presumably drive a jalopy through a distillery to its destination at the Havana Seaport. And not only that, but more information. We find out that it's a historical landmark that's been recently purchased by an anonymous financial group.
They're trying to make
public.
this story there, and a lot of the real hardcore fans are probably going to tell me there's graphic novels and comics and all sorts of ways we can read more into it. But please give us a proper story campaign mode in that game. It would be great.
Would it even... what? I don't think it would actually mean anything, though, would it?
It would to the fans.
Okay.
It would to the fans.
Yeah, right. I'm just so disconnected. Every time I hear you talk Overwatch, like I say, I'm like, wow, he can speak another language. I'm so proud. He just keeps rolling out this Overwatch news. So the question is...
Did we miss anything?
Damn sure we must have. But... Did they have an opinion on the news, the listeners, or something we might have missed? Whoa!
One little thing.
What we got?
We've got a state of play for the PlayStation tomorrow evening.
Yes.
It's going to be roughly about 10 minutes long, focusing on Medieval Remake.
Yes. So
and another game. Like, we don't know what that game is. It might be VR, PSVR. It might be a sort of exclusive first-party new IP. We don't know. We're not going to hype it too much because the last one was okay. I don't think it deserved a lot of the hate it got.
Well, why don't we segue off here? Unless something absolutely unbelievable happens outside of the PlayStation ecosystem, we should say that we're maybe going to do a feature next week, be the state of play, and we can look at both of them independently and together, see where that's taken us to. And see
sort of where Sony want to go with this thing. It is very similar to the Nintendo Directs, and I think they work quite well. So
agreed.
Yeah,
I enjoyed
we
that
might
last
have
one. I mean, there were some nice surprises in there.
Yeah, I mean, you're a big VR fan and supporter, so it was good to see quite a few of. I was talking to you, wasn't I, at the same time it was on, and you were loving No Man's Sky VR.
No Man's Sky VR, I mean, that for me is...
That is just a new life in the VR world.
I was thinking this the other day. I was watching some gameplay footage on YouTube. Every now and then, I don't know why, instead of turning the game on and playing it, I turn on YouTube and watch someone else play it. It's
a funny world we live in, isn't it?
It's a strange modern world that we live in. I don't feel like playing.
We like talking about games and watching games more than we enjoy playing them sometimes.
But while this certain player, and let's give them a shout out, because I've enjoyed the No Man's Sky journey with them when I've been able to play it and when I've not been able to play it because I've been away or whatever. L Plays Gaming on YouTube. You've got to look that up. He does these very fun narrations over the gameplay, but he's so invested in that universe, and you can tell when you hear his videos. And he's done one recently where it was his last dive into the No Man's Sky world before the changes came, and he was saying it as I was thinking it. He just was saying things like, this would be great in VR, and this would be great in VR, and there's so many subgenres of that game. You can have under the water base. That in VR would be amazing in its own.
Yeah,
you can be in space. I had on my save, I've got a base on a moon that's like completely airless moon, and you go outside of your base and it's all barren, and I've got a little mining operation going on there.
I think it's a game you'd like to talk more about in a retrospective one day, isn't it? Definitely.
Once we've finally got everything for the package, that's when it's finally released, all the bits and bobs and the updates, all
maybe
together,
a VR review even, and
we can look back all the way through the history of No Man's Sky in a feature. I think that would be incredible. You need to get it first.
This endless list of games you give me to play.
I'm just saying. So, if there's any news that we've missed or bits and bobs they want to get in touch with us, Tom, how would they do that?
You can reach us at questions@unofficialcontrollerpodcast.com with an email, which
still got to roll his sleeve up to read that tattoo.
You can insert a picture on an email, I believe, which is excellent news.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. The modern technology.
And what other mediums can they contact?
They can reach us on Twitter or Instagram just by direct messaging us, or comment on any of our posts, which would be really grateful of.
And we must say, we are, as always, super grateful for the interaction that we've had.
We've had a fair bit this week, haven't we?
Yeah,
Which is
we've
nice.
had some really great stuff. So
we'll get to that in the show.
Before we launch into the meat of the show, the feature, the N64, the history, it would be nice just to segue off and say thank you for all the support and the shares of the show and the reviews and other bits and bobs.
It's nice to see it growing a bit.
And the interaction, and we're hopefully you listen back in for your interactions here, and that encourages more. We've got people's thoughts and ideas for the N64 history section, and they've also chimed in. Stingray's been making house calls again, Tom.
Oh,
so we've got listeners' pickups to come before the man himself arrives at the bunker front door.
We enjoy seeing all those pickups because there's stuff in there, games you like, little hidden gems you forget about. And you're like, oh, I played that. How good was that? Or you see something you've got yourself. And I mean, one of those was like, I saw the picture and I was like, I bought that, and I was so hyped when I got it.
Oh yes, well, we'll get to that, won't we?
Yeah, I know. I'm getting too excited. We'll get to that.
Tom, before we get so excited and we do the show in reverse order, which would be, probably not uncommon for a couple of yokey jokey guys like ourselves.
Yeah.
But the people turned up. They've pushed to the front. They've heard this announced on all the social medias, and they've waited through the hors d'oeuvres, which is what you've been playing. They've munched gently on the starter, which was the news. And now they want to, before they start to have the palate cleanser and the dessert, which is Stingray's boot, what's the main course, Tom?
The main course this week is N64 feature.
Ooh.
Which is going to be a look back at the Nintendo 64.
This is fascinating. Console that's close to both of our hearts, I should say.
I'll kick us off with a few facts.
Oh, so, great.
It was released in Japan on June the 23rd in 1996, North America on September 26th, 1996, EU March 1st, 97, Australia March 1st, 97.
Got it at the same time as the Aussies, mate.
Yeah. The lifespan roughly lasted 96 to 2002. I'm sure there's lots of us still playing it out there.
Lots of us still playing those classic games.
It sold 32.93 million worldwide, 5.5 million in Japan, 20 million in the Americas, 6.75 million in Europe and Australia. So it was a big seller in the Americas, wasn't it?
Well, it seemed to do the bulk of its legwork there, didn't it?
Its best-selling game was Super Mario 64, which sold 11.62 million copies as of May 21st, 2003. See, so that was the last time that stat was recorded.
Yeah, and that's the sort of the N64 summed up as an obituary there. That's tied on its toe are those rather sobering numbers compared to the
Wii era,
the Wii,
and the DS,
or the PS2, which holds 150 million consoles sold. You look there and you think, crikey, 32.93. Now that's obviously interface there with the word million at the end of it, which is
still pretty impressive.
Still pretty impressive, but the N64 probably not finding as much traction, and probably starts the questionable phase in Nintendo's awkward teen years, where it stumbles from the N64 to the GameCube, and then blindly flops into the Wii out of desperation more than anything else. But the Nintendo 64 it's their last traditional console, what with it being with a cart and all.
Yeah.
And the 4 controller ports. I know the GameCube had that, but the GameCube had moved to disc, so it was the first sort of step away from the 2 consoles that had come before. So the N64 was like that bridging gap.
It's strange it had so many great forward-thinking ideas, but kept the cartridge. Like the controller was. Yeah. I mean, we'll get to some of these things.
Yeah, we'll get to that, but that run with the cartridge certainly did hamper it in the days of
absolutely.
CD audio soundtracks.
There's something I'll bring up about the cartridge and CD differences further on.
Tom,
but
let's take a seat in the back of Stingray's car. Let's take a sip on an out-of-date McDonald's Coke I found on the floor, and let's hit the flux capacitor and let's head way back. Now,
take us back to 93.
No, take us back to 93. the sounds, the smells. The SNES was riding high. Obviously, we got Donkey Kong Country come out. Everyone's thinking, "Oh my God, can graphics get any better than this?" We've got Jurassic Park's just been out. CGI's all in the news. There's TV shows like Games Master and Bad Influence talking the current wave of consoles, Mega Drive, SNES, but also dropping little snippets and features and sniffs.
There's no social media.
There's no social media, so it's all gossip in magazines and movies, games, and
sat
videos,
on the school bus home, reading
break.
the magazines, looking at all the titles coming out.
Johnny Hurd, blah, blah,
No
blah.
idea when they're coming out either.
Nothing. And suddenly, some news breaks through. This name, code name, Project Reality. It was a joint venture between Silicon Graphics and Nintendo beginning in 1993. Jim Clark of Silicon Graphics met with Nintendo CEO Hiroshi Yamauchi in early 1993, thus initiating Project Reality on August 23rd. The two companies announced a global joint development and license agreement surrounding Project Reality, projecting the yet unnamed eventual project would be developed specifically for Nintendo, will be unveiled in arcades for $94 and be available for home use by late $95, below $250. Now, that was the announcement that they announced at the Shoshanki trade show in 93. No doubt I've literally just committed complete genocide on all those Japanese names. Now, that's a lot of talk, but let's break that down. You're a kid on the school bus. You read that Nintendo's done a deal with the developer of the machine that made the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, and your mind just runs wild with the ideas of what that might be. Yeah. Now, I know looking back, we're thinking, we were a country mile away from Jurassic Park on the Nintendo 64, but I think the bulk idea of what that was got simmered down. Now, Jurassic Park was a big name at the time, and we were in that crossover place. It was a strange place because the Mega CD was out, 32X was out.
You had the PlayStation 1.
The PlayStation 1 had just come out, so we were in like this sort of strange crossover phase where the granddaddy of them all was late to the party, but was bringing with
extra horsepower.
The bigger boys.
The bigger boys.
Been up the top of the street, acting all big. Told the bigger boys to come to the party. Silicon Graphics pulled on the b-ball pumps and came down.
Yeah.
So then what?
On June 23rd, 1994, the bigger boys turned up and Nintendo announced the new official name of the still unfinished console as Ultra 64. The first group of elite developers selected by Nintendo was nicknamed the Dream Team. So this included Silicon Graphics Inc., Alias Research Inc., Software Creations, Rambus Inc., Multigen Inc., Rare Limited, the boys.
Yeah, finally showing.
And Rare Coin at Toys and Games. Acclaim Entertainment, Williams Entertainment.
Paradigm Simulation.
Paradigm.
Interesting word.
Yeah. Spectrum Holobyte.
Yeah.
DMA Designs, Angel Studios, Ocean, Time Warner Interactive, and Mindscape.
I suppose in 1994, if you're putting together what they refer to as the Dream Team, you've got names in there such as Rare, Williams Entertainment, Spectrum Holobyte, DMA Design. We all know what became of them. If we don't, Rockstar Games, Ocean, obviously at the time, big publisher, lesser known these days, but still should be looked into by our listeners. And maybe one day we'll do an Ocean retrospective. But we're certainly going to have to take a long, hard sip on the coke in the back of the Stingray machine, because not even that would not. That's a long way back in time.
So the newly renamed Nintendo 64 console was fully unveiled to the public in playable form on November 24th, 95. So the code name Ultra 64 got dropped and it thus became Nintendo 64.
As we now lovingly know it and affectionately refer to it as.
At the Nintendo 7th Annual Shoshinaki Trade Show, eager for a preview, hordes of Japanese school children huddled in the cold outside. The electricity of the anticipation clearly rippling through the ranks. Photos of the event were disseminated online by Game Zero magazine 2 days later. Official coverage by Nintendo followed later via the Nintendo Power website and print magazine. I see they have quite a good podcast.
Who's that?
Not quite as good as ours, but Nintendo Power Podcast.
Oh, right, okay, that might be worth checking out.
Yeah.
We included that just to try and help the listeners know we are back in time here at this moment, and we're trying to get this information. We can't just go online and find out what happened at the Cincinnati
Maybe
show.
in a great time paradox, we gave them the idea for Nintendo Power Podcast when we came back and said, we're from the Unofficial Control Podcast. We're here to research the Nintendo 64.
I think you sucked from the wrong
Back to the Future cocktail.
And
And I've seen Avengers Endgame too much.
Oh, poor old Gandalf. There's absolutely no way you should feel that wrath like that. So we've clued people in. We've brought people into the moment. Let's for a minute, Tom. Let's just segue off and imagine the console's out now, as far as our sort of timeline's concerned, and people are getting their mitts on it. Tell me about the first time you got your mitts on it.
So for me, it was winter '97. I'd seen lots of my friends playing GoldenEye, and just
all the talk of the town. Was it the Fortnite?
Just in awe of it.
Was it the Fortnite of its era?
Oh, dirty Fortnite.
Yeah, but hang on.
It was, it's a good comparison. I see what you're trying to say with that.
What I'm doing here. You know, all the kids wanted it.
Yeah.
And you got it.
Yeah.
And you were happy with it.
So yeah, I picked it up with it was a present. I didn't pick it up. I wasn't rocking.
Did you get the console for your birthday?
I did, yes.
So just invoke for me the time of year that is, the smells. Did you know it was underneath that wrapping paper, or did you think maybe it was going to be Jurassic Park Command Centre, or were you like, oh my giddy aunt, it's an N64?
I was hoping on an N64. That's what I'd asked for, and
do you remember back then what the alternative?
The euphoria of getting it.
What was the possible alternative that was in your mind?
I don't know. Probably like some kind of educational VTech computer or something.
My God, I mean, you're stuck on a tightrope, and to your left is the plunge into the N64 and all of its glorious games. To your right, Tom, is a VTech learning computer.
Something like that, yeah.
The unrivaled joy that must run through your mind, like a split personality. It's either VTech or N64. I'm in or I'm out.
So yeah, got it with GoldenEye.
The paper came off?
Yeah, paper came off.
Was it new present, got to be on the big room TV, or was it scurried straight away upstairs?
No, see, we had like because mine and my brother's room was being sort of decorated. We had a setup downstairs in the front room, bizarrely. So we had a small TV, scurried away.
Now you mention it,
scurried away in the corner, and then Mum and Dad were watching the big screen, and we were like constantly told to turn it down, so we'd plug in a headphone into the headphone jack of the TV.
Imagine living through that pain now. Mum, Dad watching TV in the corner. You've got your brand new PS4, Xbox One, Switch, whatever it is, lashed up to a 14-inch portable. They're asking you to shush down this HD dream machine. And to be quite honest, looking back, I played through a 14-inch portable. We all did, and now if you sat a kid down with a 14-inch,
I mean, it's crazy, like, really. What's this? Yeah, to think like we played it, and in your head, it looks as good as a PS4 game in your memory. Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, the smaller screens. Probably coming in through an RF lead, which kind of muddied the graphics up a little bit. And that's the point about the N64, actually. Nintendo decided that the majority of the users will be using the RF cable to connect, the aerial, the way we used to do it. Mm-hmm. And for that reason, they sort of built into it a feature where they would sort of muddy the outline of the graphics, knowing that it would end up going through an RF lead, which would then sort of anti-alias for them. Which is why when you play the N64 on a modern TV, it looks really janky because it's coming through pure.
Right.
Nintendo designed that image to be its best through an RF lead. Yeah. Which, modern day, that's a bit bonkers, isn't it? But again, for Nintendo, the N64 was a powerful machine, of that we have no doubt. Limited slightly by its lack of a drive, but once again, always thinking outside the box with innovative and cutting-edge ideas to push the machine on, or literally change the whole direction of the games industry, as they've been able to do through the years with these innovations. The N64 was a cracking bit of kit, Tom.
It certainly was.
Did you know that it only launched with 2 games?
Did it really? What were those 2 games?
Pilot Wings and Mario 64. Launch.
Pretty good titles, really.
Very good titles. I'm a big fan of Pilot Wings.
I'd have picked both of those up at launch.
Me and you both. Well, would you though? Because you'd be... That was big bucks back in the day.
Yeah, because they were like £60 a cart. Yeah.
And I think I got it when it first launched, and I'm pretty sure there wasn't a pack-in.
I think that speaks volumes for, like, Super Mario 64 was the Breath of the Wild.
Oh, yeah, for definitely.
It helped
Pilot
shift
Wings, though, I mean, coming out at the same time as Mario 64 means it's probably been ignored by a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's actually a very cool game.
Probably in that first year, though, hopefully people picked it up. I think I owned it at one point. Like, I bought a second-hand copy. One of those random pickups that you get where it hasn't even got a box and you just get it from a car boot sale.
I put a lot of time into it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I got the game, like I said, I got the console at launch or in the launch window for sure. Picked up Super Mario 64. Got a parking ticket, my first one as well from The Sims. I'd just been really poorly and I'd had glandular fever. I took some time off work. Been really poorly when I was just about getting myself able to sit up in bed. I thought, I know what I'll do. I've been off, I've got some money stacked up, I'll go get an N64. So I drove to Lincoln, parked in what I thought would be an appropriate place on a Saturday, blatantly on double yellows. I don't know what I was thinking.
Well, the hype train was real. You
don't
see the yellow lines.
I know.
You just see Pierce Brosnan doing sort of judo chops to the neck and silenced pistols,
excited listeners,
and sniper rifles in the snow,
and jumping up and down on his chair.
Odd jobbing multiplayer. Who's that bizarre character as well? Did they have Mayday in there?
I think they did.
What's her name? Grace Jones.
I think the only thing that could make you happy now, if I screwed across some Mayfair paper and some crayons and you started doing a GoldenEye drawing.
Yeah, if listeners want to see that.
For Mumsy.
Yeah.
Before, let's move this forward before she
GoldenEye artwork
and knocks on the door and brings us our nighttime milk and our blankets. It came out in 1996, as we talked about. The initial shipment of 300,000 units sold out on the first day. Nintendo successfully avoided repeat of the Super Famicom launch day pandemonium and used a wider retail network, which included convenience stores. The remaining 200,000 units of the first production run shipped on 26th and 30th of June, respectively, with almost all of them reserved ahead of time. Thoroughly, through the window of the time we're looking at, thoroughly successful launch, one would imagine.
Yeah, pretty good.
You've got the product out there. It's in and invested in people's homes. They've picked up 2 great titles to keep them busy on the way out the door. Like I said, my launch experience with Super Mario 64 blew my mind. I drifted out of the magazines a little bit, but I'd seen some adverts on TV. I wanted the game. Got home and I was just blown away by it. The interactivity compared... What you got to remember is we were going from SNES and PlayStation through to Mario, and it was like the full implementation of the ideas. On the PlayStation 1, your 3D platformers, really, they were just sort of on-rails jump games, almost like Infinite Runners. Like Crash Bandicoot was a 3D platformer. It could be argued.
Yeah, but it didn't have that free roam element of...
Mario 64 was like, whoa. Like when you first jumped through that painting, it was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
These graphics are incredible. There was nothing else to liken it to.
That controller as well, first introduction of the analog stick.
That controller is... It's got its fans and it's got its haters, but...
There was nothing like that controller at the time as well.
That first time I played Mario, and it was kind of like push it a little bit to walk, or tiptoe.
You didn't get that on the D-pad, did you?
Not at all. And then this is why I think a digital guy like me who grew up on hold down right and push up sometimes struggles on analog stealth games, because when I want to go forward, I just hammer the stick all the way forward. I don't know any in between, so. It's always been a little bit of an issue for me.
And we've talked, haven't we, about the way it worked with GoldenEye. It felt like you were holding like a gun handle with a trigger underneath the controller.
It's not... When you look at the controller, it looks more like 3 bananas in a bundle, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Than anything that you would recognise as a gaming controller, especially the first time you see it, and in the multiples of colours that it did. They even did a yellow one. So you see this thing and you pick it up. And
Must have been Donkey
this?
Kong related, that yellow one.
Yeah, I think it was. And the way like I say, it looks like just 3 bananas applied on the floor. But when you pick it up and you can hold it sort of middle and right, left and right.
Yeah, there's a few options, wasn't
the
there?
little different horns, and the way you could hold it in No Mercy versus the way you held it in GoldenEye, like you say. And it was such an innocent looking thing, but as soon as you picked it up with that Z trigger, it felt right for first person shooters, didn't it? And
yeah, it did.
That's what lent itself to GoldenEye, and enjoying that so much is subconsciously you felt like you were more invested in the game.
I remember having a few friends who had sort of PC back then, and they sort of picked up GoldenEye and were like, wow, that's the first time I played like a shoot 'em up like that, where it's actually felt like the mouse and keyboard, or as close to, for the accuracy and such things, to make it feel a bit more.
I think initial pick up and play you can get straight into, and it's got that great pick up and play. I think you'd be hard pushed to say it as refined as a mouse and keyboard setup, but for what we've had to what we got, it was a great solution.
It was. I think the Rumble Pack as well really added a little bit to it. It weighed a lot on the back of that controller.
It did, and I don't think every time I've used one on different controllers all through time, when you go just with the normal fit, plug it in the bottom of the controller as is, there was their one. It didn't ever fit properly, and it just sort of shook around in the bottom of a. Yeah. When you have a vibrating and modern controller, the whole thing vibrates in your hand. So what I did was I took a piece of Nintendo official magazine and wedged it in with the Rumble Pack at the same time, and that made the snug sort of tight enough, the fit tight enough that the whole pack vibrated instead of it just being a wobbly thing at the bottom of the pad.
Yeah,
which I think was more what they were going for, but they must have shaved a few thousandths of an inch off to make it so it felt more easy to click in for the uninitiated, because I think that extra width of a magazine page is enough to make it feel very tight, but I would rather it was very tight and it worked as it was meant to work, because it launched with Star Fox 64, and that game probably like Link's...
Oh, it came bundled with that, didn't it?
Yeah, you got a big box version of it. It came with a Rumble Pack in there.
Great game.
Yeah, really good game. And the other game that used it, I always remember it being quite useful and innovative in Ocarina of Time. It would
it rumbled when
and it did various other things and sort of grounded you in the world. So when you made a hit, it reverberated.
Well, it's another thing that's been replicated time and time again, and we still see it today.
Still see it in controls today. All those innovations really are there.
Yeah,
there's the bumpers. You could argue. It's a bit muddy, isn't it? But the N64 controller is certainly one that. Well,
you look out like you brought the crosshair up in GoldenEye was one of the bumpers, and I mean that's just everywhere now, isn't it? I know it's a lot more refined. It is a lot different now, but that was the groundwork for it.
And also, they utilised that same function on the pad for. A lot of the first-party games came with batteries built in them, so you didn't need to worry about a save pack. And obviously, I don't think I had an official one. I had a third-party, unofficial controller version that sort of slotted in, but that enabled you to make saves in other games and backups that didn't have a battery backup inside.
Yeah, like the memory card.
Yeah, I think, obviously, PlayStation kept its memory cards in the machine, but Dreamcast followed suit and made you plug the memory card into that. And so did original Xbox. If you remember,
it did.
Yes.
It had two slots on the back.
It did for memory cards.
Yeah.
So again, it had a hard drive, but it felt the need to put the memory card functionality on the pad.
It was good in a way, because you could then take that memory card round to your friends, load up all your creator wrestlers that you'd made, or some abominations that you've like overstatted, and so you can just absolutely demolish
as always,
your friend. We're like, no, I've not upgraded the stats I promised, and then you're pulling off like a swanton bomb off the top rope after about 2 minutes of fighting.
What a bad loser. Tom, the N64 was certainly not a bad loser. It was a winner in most people's eyes. One of those winning situations was the fact that Nintendo had managed to bundle along into the Nintendo 64 ecosystem Rare.
Now, the great
like
Powerhouse
Nintendo,
developer back in the day.
the powerhouse developer Rare stood atop the N64. You can't say N64 or Nintendo 64 without saying Rare. Famous for the GoldenEye that came out and obviously in the launch window and got people clued into the system. Do you want to run me through some of the games they dropped out for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So they kicked it off in '96 with Killer Instinct Gold. They followed that up with Blast Corps, '97. Then, of course, came GoldenEye in '97 as well. Diddy Kong Racing in '97. Wow, they're churning out the games then.
The unbelievable amount, the rate which they dropped out classic titles, it bends the mind.
98 saw Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah.
Jet Force Gemini 99. Also Donkey Kong 64 in 99. I mean, they were two pretty big games. In terms of, like, hours, it's all to complete.
Definitely.
And then their last title on there was Perfect Dark in 2000.
No, it wasn't, though, was it?
Was it not?
No, because their last title was Conker's Bad Fur Day, and they also managed to sneak out Banjo-Tooie.
Oh, of course.
Sequel
I never played the
Banjo-Kazooie.
sequel. Yeah.
So we look at those names. Let those names just ring through the listeners' brains a little bit. Some of those names on there, even the casual fan will recognise, like GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, Diddy Kong Racing, Banjo-Kazooie. But we look again, Killer Instinct Gold, great fighting game.
Yeah.
On the SNES, made it onto the N64, and it's still around.
They kind of covered all the bases of different genres of video games, didn't they?
Blast Corps, fascinating title. I encourage you to look it out. Either get it on a cart to play, or if you've got it in your collection, get it out, or go find some footage of it. It's a really innovative title. GoldenEye 007, we don't need to say much more about that, do we? I mean, it's just absolutely shatteringly brilliant. Diddy Kong Racing, doing with the Donkey Kong family, a great turn on Mario Kart.
See, I preferred it to Mario Kart because, again, I picked up Mario Kart second hand, but before that I owned Diddy Kong Racing. It just felt like...
sitting on the fence today, this
No.
Wow.
It just had more options because you had like the little hovercrafts, the planes, and then I'm sure that you had like the carts.
Yeah.
So there was like 3 different ways of doing the race.
I see. I never picked that up because I was.
My memory's a little hazy on it, but
at the time, and Diddy Kong Racing looked a little bit too.
Oh no, me and my brother. No, we played that when the bigger boys weren't around, so it was one of those like you own Diddy Kong Racing. Right, little.
Playing that,
yeah.
Are you? We've been playing
No, we didn't play that. And then
unbelievable.
Joe, get that out of the cupboard. Let's play Diddy Kong Racing.
Before we go and hide in the cupboard and gaggle around Diddy Kong Racing like a couple of small children hiding from the bigger boys, I want to talk about Jet Force Gemini, one of my best gaming memories on the N64. A rare stroke hidden... See what I've done there? A rare hidden gem. Have you played it?
I did play it, yeah. I don't think I completed it, though. It was a bit beyond me.
At the time, it was one of those games that hooked me. You had 3 characters... And you could go and complete it as all 3: the boy, the girl, and the dog.
It was like was there a little robot as well that followed you around?
That was the dog.
Ah, right.
The robo dog.
Yeah.
There was no robot.
I didn't know whether... I seem to remember some flying, like, screen.
I think the dog could fly.
Oh, okay.
And now you're making me question myself. Oh, God. And another favourite of mine, Donkey Kong 64. You're not a fan. A lot of people.
I did like it. It's hard. I always found
again,
it really
was one of those games that I really liked because you went through a world and you could see things you couldn't interact with, no matter what you did.
Yeah.
But then as you played the game, it was like, oh, hang on a minute, that's thingy symbol, or that's blah blah symbol, or oh, I need to unlock him, and then I can go. And then all of a sudden, you revisit every single level with every other new Kong that you've got. Then each one of those Kongs gets a new weapon, or unlockable, or a flute, or I think he had DJ decks, or whatever it was. It was very odd.
Who forgets the DK rap as well?
DK.
Look that up
DK
on YouTube.
Rap. Yeah, I think if they're ever going to do anything, if we've ever asked the listeners to do anything, one of the things we've asked them to do is go out there and share the podcast, tell people to send a message to a friend. We asked them to text them last week, and I think it was a little bit random. People just getting unofficial controller podcast sent to them in the text.
Yeah.
So what we're asking you this week is grab hold of their phone, subscribe, leave a review, own it. And while we're talking of people owning it, getting in contact, we reached out to the community, didn't we, Tom?
We have, yeah.
Some
good
we
feedback
asked
on
for
this.
them to share their N64 memories. Over on Twitter, they aptly named N64 memories. Refers to memories such as playing Mario 64 for the first time in Toys R Us.
Ooh, back in the day of the demo pod.
Oh my goodness, that is a special memory. Buying N64 magazine religiously on release. I was the same. Used to love that official Nintendo magazine. Of all the magazines, Dreamcast official magazine has to be my all-time favourite. But Nintendo official magazine, it was a little babyish. You know, you sometimes see those Fortnite magazines now in supermarkets. I have to admit, at the time, I was an angsty 20-year-old. It was sometimes a little bit like, why am I buying this? But then, at the same token, when you get in the Nintendo ecosystem and you get all the official stuff, you just feel like wired in, don't you? You feel like Mario, like plugged into a Japanese 24/7 Takichi's Castle. You just can't get enough of it. And N64 memories obviously can't get enough of it because they've called themselves N64 memories. They also mention the eclectic summer of '98, never going outside due to play multiplayer GoldenEye. Oh, Tom. That's a great memory, isn't it? Thank you, N64.
Well, for me, it was perfect. Well, I mean, yeah, I played a lot of GoldenEye N64, but me and my brother played a lot of Perfect Dark multiplayer against bots randomly with the X-ray gun, if anyone remembers that, and just thinking it was the greatest thing ever, getting told by grandparents to get outside and play rather than sit inside with the curtains drawn.
Well, they did that earlier on GoldenEye, but
yeah.
Let's talk about this. The magical Christmas '98 when they received Ocarina of Time. I think we can all drink some warm milk to that, Tom.
I mean, is that life at its peak? Ocarina of Time on Christmas '98. It doesn't get much better.
I remember just so vividly the whole time encapsulated around that Zelda.
Yeah.
Seeing you at Christmas, playing the game.
Me coming round, knocking on the door. I can't get past the Great Deku Tree.
And like a tiger and a giant looking down at an ant. And now the times have changed. I'm like...
Looking at Qui-Gon, looking down at Anakin.
Can you please come round and complete this bit on this game?
I don't even know what to do.
I can't even turn it on.
And the shame that I went after that point when you were not available at the end of the door... To then go and buy a game guide for it.
That's shocking.
I know.
You lose the bigger boy for 5 minutes, and all of a sudden
you had the higher ground, and then I just went and got the game guide.
Tom, we've got to move on from the Star Wars special. It was now 3 episodes ago. You know that material you should have served up then, and you serve it up now. But that's quite good actually, because let's not forget, and we're going to get down to this. The N64 was home to some great Star Wars titles.
It was.
If you remember the Pod Racer games.
Yeah.
We've mentioned in previous podcasts, but we're going to mention it again because it's that good. Rogue Squadron.
Yeah.
And also the divisive, but at the time very popular, Shadows of Empire.
Yeah.
There we go. And that was N64 Memories on Twitter. And Super High 5 chimes in over on Insta. And he was but a wee lad, as he says, when he had his first transparent jungle green N64 and spent hours with Mario. So I'm sure there's some people that would give their left eyebrow for that console right now.
Probably
he spent
a bit of a
hours
collector's item.
with Mario 64, which he says is his favourite Mario game, but didn't like DK64 too much because it was too different to its SNES iterations. He also remembers renting more games than he owned and loved Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, back in the day where you could rent games.
It all in there. When you could rent games, when Star Wars seamlessly...
Blockbuster would have
sections.
a copy of... probably at some point I would have rented a few N64 games. Can't have enjoyed them that much because I don't remember them.
But I didn't start renting games. I remember my friends renting games, PlayStation games and stuff, and the cases, the yellow and blue cases, the little half... DVD shells that they used to have. But I didn't rent a game, I don't think, until probably Did I ever rent a game? That's a question for the ages, Tom, isn't it? Did I ever rent a game?
You must have done.
I don't think I did. DVDs I rented, games I just tended to buy. I was a bit of a bigger boy than you.
Yeah, you were. So I was like, please, may I have a rental of this game? And I'm going to try from Stingray. I'm going to try and complete it in a weekend, and then getting frustrated that I couldn't. But it was a good way of like, again, you could. It was almost like demoing the game if you really loved it. Yeah, if you really loved it, and it was a fairly sizable game. You could think, well, I played that over the weekend. I've got to take it back, but I'm going to ask for that for my birthday.
And good friend Video Gamecation chimes in. His favourite memory is GoldenEye. Lex Talk Games shares a story of how the M64 made him realise how much he loved his sister. My sister was born weeks after I got an N64, says Let's Talk Games. He was obsessed with video games at that age, and his parents asked him how he felt about the new baby. And he replied, she's better than Nintendo.
Wow, that's up there with I Love You 3000.
Pronounce...
Red Dragon Rios.
Wow, check him out. Tom's just...
I was rehearsing that one earlier.
For weeks.
In the mirror.
Well, tell me about...
Like a young Ric Flair.
Tell me about Red Dragon Rios.
He has great memories of staying up for 2 straight nights playing Ocarina of Time.
There's a man.
We can all everyone can empathise with that one, surely. Scouring the game guide, spoiling basically what was coming up next, but still classed as one of my favourite games of all time.
And there's another one of the
a good friend, yeah. Pez 3.5 also remembers countless hours staying up playing Pilot Wings and Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time terrifying him due to the Stell Child's appearing, raising up out of the ground, and that whole night-day cycle in Hyrule Field and appearing.
We're going to go
and the screamers in the town square as well. Horrible things.
I mean, again, if you're a wee one at the time, to me it was just Nintendo games.
Yeah, you were more
impressionable ones. Actually, that was quite terrifying.
Oh, absolutely.
And lastly, Joe Player over on Instagram says they remember Turok Dinosaur Hunter with love, hails the surreal, realistic graphics, and gives honourable mentions to Mario 64, Banjo, and DK64. Before we launch into our top 5, Tom, it's probably no small feat that Shigeru Miyamoto had a massive influence on the N64 and the Nintendo library and some of Rare's games. He was kind of producer, executive producer. He was involved across the whole gamut.
I think that's his golden era, isn't it? I was
going to say, is there a console that better reflects Shigeru Miyamoto's gaming genius?
You could argue maybe the NES, but I think this is like when he's at his... This is when he's...
It was a coming-of-age title,
yeah,
I think. And he arrives here and the graphics suddenly are capable of realising his vision.
I think that's something we should just quickly touch on is that delve into... I mean, we'd played 3D games on the PlayStation.
Yeah.
And we'd had that, Mode 7 on the SNES.
Yeah.
I think, especially Ocarina... Going into that 3D world, you were like, wow, there's nothing like this. And Mario 64.
And there were games on PC, but they were a bit more European.
There's not much been done that's been as major as 2D to 3D.
We've had 2D to 3D, mono to stereo to surround. We've had, composite to 1080p to 4K to 8K. We've seen different iterations move on with the console, but
it's not bigger than that.
Nothing's really been bigger than that.
Because you're changing everything about how the game will be made.
Could we imagine that the next, and it's in its infancy now, but is the next big leap VR?
Yeah, surely. I mean, I was really impressed with PSVR. I don't think it's still catching on as much as everyone's hoping it will, but
no,
surely it's going to be the next big step.
I think it needs to be there. These moments that we've talked of, I've had
full immersion with the headset, the VR.
As close as I can get from 2D to 3D was me putting on the VR headset.
Really?
I think so.
Yeah.
Imagine if you're on the next generation.
I think it probably. I'm not knocking any of the games on there, but it needs its big Ocarina and it needs its Mario 64. Well, I've heard some people say Astrobot's pretty impressive.
Do you own one?
No.
Put the excuses down. Pick one up.
Man up and pick one up.
Man up and pick one up. That's right. So we've talked many things, but if you're picking up an N64, we would say get hold of a console. It is in best shape as you can get it.
Yeah, these are...
Get yourself a controller, possibly two, because it's a great multiplayer machine.
Yeah.
Get yourself a memory pack.
You always want that second one to be unofficial, though. Let the younger sibling have that little bit of a disadvantage.
Oh, Tom, if you were ever on a level playing field, I think even a 3-year-old could wipe the floor with you. This is why I'm much better at games than you are now. It's like, well, yeah, I'm playing with a PS3 pad wired upside down, an Xbox pad jammed on the side of it. It's got buttons up the yin yang. I don't know what they do, and you're sat there absolutely owning me with your pro controller. I think you need to just cut the rest of us some slack. So
Roger that.
You've gone around your little retro gaming store. You're on eBay filling your basket. You've got the N64, the controller, the Rumble pack, memory pack. You've doubled up on the controller. You've followed Tom's advice, listeners. So if you ever needed retail advice, Tom's suggesting you buy the poor man's controller to give to the other player in your life. Be that the girlfriend, the boyfriend, the younger sibling, whoever it is.
Yeah.
So they've picked up that. We're also mentioning that we think you should grab yourself the expansion pack, the jumper pack, to ramp up those graphics. We'd also recommend looking through, trying to find, the best video connections possible, as it is at the moment. So modern sets don't seem to love the N64 as much as they could do. A lot of the older machines, when you connect them up to an HD screen, look incredible. The N64 looks worse. So I'd probably say, in my opinion, stick with just the standard yellow, white and red leads, the composite ones, and let the TV do its magic as best as it can.
Definitely want the light out for that, don't you? No graphic enhancer on full.
And maybe is the N64 a game that deserves to be on a great big 4K screen, or is it more of something that should be dedicated to a retro room on a 14-inch portable in the corner?
I saw, just speaking of what screen to play it on,
I was prepared for this to go completely off piste, but this is reasonably...
Yeah, it's like a modern TV set, but it's done like with the back tube. Whatever.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to think who it's made by. Might be LG. If any of the listeners know, hit us up.
Yeah, please let us know.
Yeah, I think it's almost designed for like retro gamers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well,
so
if you're feeling a little bit... I was mentioning
flush.
to pick up a TV for £5. Tom's pulled out the unofficial controller checkbook and written a check for a couple of £1 million. Either which way you want to experience N64,
me and Stingray have actually got shares in the company, so we're trying to just plug it.
It's normally me that needs restraint. This week you're like a rabid dog.
So yeah, we want to give you our top 5 titles as well to pick up with this if you are going to dabble in the N64.
We've talked about the accessories. Now let's launch into the games. If you're going to have a must-have games, if you're a cocktail party and some well-to-do guy says, "Oh yeah, I play N64," well, let's see if we can
call his bluff.
Let's call his bluff.
Let's
see
make
what's
him
on
look
the
a fool.
shelf. First game, we've talked about it. Everyone's talked about it. Everyone will keep talking about it. Ocarina of Time, released in November 1998, developed by Nintendo. There's going to be a little bit of a recurring theme here in this top 5 games
for
you
us.
think you need. For us.
Our personal choices.
And people are probably going to hear these titles and go, how predictable. Where's Glover?
Where's Chameleon Twist?
Where's Chameleon Twist? Where's Mischief Makers?
Yeah.
Well, for all those people, we appreciate you and thank you for listening. Get violent in the comments and let us know what we're missing out on the N64. Ocarina of Time, Tom. Why does everybody need to own this? If they're listening and they just take one piece of information away, Tom, why do they need this game? Sum it up in one sentence.
It's just an experience, really. It's beyond the game for me. But then I hope that's not just nostalgia talking.
Yeah, I've played it recently.
It still holds up really well, and I played the 3DS
game.
remake, and it was just as good as the day I played it.
Here's another reference for you. If you've never got on board the Zelda / Link train before, if you're ever going to get on board a train, You might as well get on board the Ocarina of Time.
That's where to get on board with those, I think.
That's where you got on board. I started my journey on the SNES.
Yeah.
Next up, we've already talked about it quite a lot. Most of these games have already talked the hind legs off. But Mario 64, I've talked about my first moments with the game. Tom, what's your first moments of the game? Memories?
So I didn't pick that up for a while. I'd heard people talk about it, but I was too afraid of looking silly in front of the bigger boys and thought Mario was for the kiddies. So I was I'm like playing as like this elf guy with a sword and shield and like a fantasy world. Mario was kind of like dirty, hidden away in the corner.
Oh my goodness!
So like a little second-hand copy I picked up, and I thought it was okay.
10 out of 10 masterpiece.
I've gone on to play like Mario Sunshine, Mario Odyssey,
best of the game.
Mario
the
Galaxy.
Bigger boys aren't around.
Yeah.
Would you like a Pez out?
Well, you kind of get older, don't you? And don't worry about what people think, and just think that looks a really good game. I'm going to play it.
There's some of the hardcore geeks who've not been caring our whole lives.
Yeah.
The bigger boys. Yeah, I'm playing Mario. What you going to do about it? GoldenEye. We've talked this one to death. August 97, developed by Rare.
You can't really say much about that.
We've
countless nights multiplayer and breaker of friendships.
My initial feelings when I got that game, there'd been a lot of talk about it, a lot of noise. A friend of mine had already picked it up, I think, and I went and got it, slotted it in the N64. That first damn level, my goodness, just absolutely unbelievable. Getting the sniper rifle, the way the game felt, controlled and looked. I know when we look back at it now, and I did a social post, I think it on Twitter and Instagram, where I had sort of gameplay shots of Link, Mario, and a screenshot of GoldenEye.
Yeah.
And the faces for the guys in GoldenEye, they look so janky now, right? But at the time, I remember looking at that thinking, and I use this probably every single week, but I remember looking at that thinking, graphics can't get any better than this. If I had a pound for every time I'd thought that on a video game, I'd probably have like a slack £47.50. I don't know where the 50p came from, but you know, these things happen, don't they? What's next on that list?
Next up is No Mercy.
I thought I'd give the ravishing Rick Rude this one.
Yeah, released in November 2000, developed by Akai Corporation. I mean, WWF was everywhere at school when this came out. Coming off the back of WrestleMania 2000, before it, this was like ramped up to 100. Like the new wrestlers who were current then, ladder match, which we famously
this was in our top 10 list, wasn't it? In the top 10 episode.
An hour-long ladder match we had one Christmas just because we were not willing to give up the fight. Triple threat ladder match.
Such a great game.
The creator wrestler felt really in depth, even though it was quite simple. So you can keep updating the roster along with the TV show, and it was just
cool. Cool feature.
It launched with a really bad glitch that wiped the game save, and the blood didn't work. So I remember sending them a copy of the game back, and they sent a new one out, all improved.
Did I ever tell you my story of No Mercy?
No.
Towards the end of the N64's life, I was getting a bit... I've talked about how I didn't think it... I don't like to think the bigger boys can tell me things about it.
Oh, they did.
But, well, this was completely off my own bat. Towards the end of the N64's life, I was looking for more mature titles. I'd kind of got a little bit... My eyes had been sort of washed out with all this neon colour, and I wanted some grit, to the point where I even got, like, Shadow Man on the N64. And towards the end, I was just so desperate for games. And I had WrestleMania WWF 2000, but I wanted the new game. But it was out in America, but it wasn't out in the UK. So I drove all the way to Leicester.
Yeah.
Ponied up for a full retail import copy of No Mercy on the N64. Got myself one of those strange, highfalutin converter carts that you needed to play North American games on a PAL machine.
Right.
Came all the way back, and Leicester's not exactly around the corner, guys.
No.
Not at all. And there was like an import video game shop there. The biggest shining light was still, 100 miles away. But I drove there. Drove all the way back. Set it up. It was a different hertz than my TV could see.
No.
So it was just like this flicking image.
Yeah.
There was nothing I could do to put it right, so I had to package it all up.
Yeah.
Took it all the way back to Leicester, got my money back. I know I couldn't have money, I had to have a credit.
Yeah.
So I bought Ready to Rumble boxing on the N64, which is terrible. It was really terrible.
Done up like a kipper.
And then, not long after that, I got rid of the N64. So my first memory of No Mercy was really your copy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Bringing it round and
I think the first
dazzling
time that night we played at Christmas on No Mercy was possibly the first time I'd ever played No Mercy. I was
so it was pretty much
WrestleMania 2000
it was the same controls, so you were still putting up one hell of a fight. But yeah, a great multiplayer game.
One thing I thought earlier, if this podcast ever had a T-shirt, I think it would just need to be in really bright yellow or pink letters, just on the front. It's our catchphrase.
It is.
And that moves us swiftly on to 1080 Snowboarding, released February 1998, developed once again by Nintendo. Did you know Miyamoto had his hand on that as well?
He had his hands everywhere.
This is what I'm saying to you. We don't realise how many executive producer T-shirt, slogan, do it, how many games he had been involved in.
Yeah.
He had his hand on everything, and I'm sure he probably had a hand involved in the machine in itself. I can't find any evidence of that in the research that I've done. I've even dug out old magazines from back in the day to have a look at some of these Silicon Graphics stories. Would you say there that we need to, let's just touch on 1080 Snowboarding, probably one of the standout best snowboarding games I've ever played.
Yeah, it had a really good soundtrack.
And it captured the vibe of the snowboarding clique, or the one I like to imagine it is, where it's like cool guys up in an alpine lodge.
Yeah, it was my second title I actually picked up for the machine. I got GoldenEye and the console. Yeah. And then in between my birthday in November and Zelda at Christmas, I got some birthday money left over. I was like, I wonder what game to buy. And obviously it being winter, I was like, oh yeah, snowboarding. That looks cool.
Of course.
But mainstream.
But
but it actually turned out to be a really good game. And just enjoyed like doing the runs down the mountain, trying to get the best times and the best tricks. And it didn't have many characters, but they were all quite memorable. Well, I'm not going to name them now, but I just like the images in my head.
Yeah, definitely.
It just had that Nintendo style to it,
even though it had like extreme sports.
And in the time it was like realistic graphics. Really, they weren't going for like a cartoon.
I remember looking at that thinking, it can't get any better than this. Honestly, the N64's got so
another pound in the jar.
Should we do some honourable mentions?
Yeah, let's.
If you've still got some money in your back pocket after ratcheting up and buying these gems, what else do they need to keep an eye out for, Tom?
So, our honourable mentions are Donkey Kong 64, Jet Force Gemini, the first Smash Brothers, Mario Party, F-Zero X, Star Wars Pod Racer, Star Wars Rogue Squadron, Perfect Dark, and Resident Evil 2.
Resident Evil 2, a work of art in the fact that they managed to get all that on one cart.
Yeah.
And at the minute, I think, commanding quite a high price.
Ah.
So that's what I would say. Do you think we're done and dusted there on the N64, Tom? Did we miss anything?
No, I'm sure the listeners will let us know if they had any other stories on the N64.
Yeah, we just want more of the stories. The smell of what sits on your fingers as you try and kill that next boss in Donkey Kong 64 or
got
whatever
your
it is.
Younger brother in a headlock and giving him a nuggie for whooping your bum on WrestleMania 2000 and you just won't have it. You're like, no, that's cheating.
It woke the sleeping giant in Tom, which was like, no, you stayed awake till 3 a.m, either which way I'm beating you. Yeah, okay. Now, we've heard rumblings from the community. When the big man makes a house call, you better be ready. This is listeners' Stingrays. These guys got in touch to show us their pickups from Stingrays boot. You can too. Just hashtag Stingrays boot on Instagram or Twitter, or email us at questions@unofficialcontrollerpodcast.com. And if you're listening now and you're that tech savvy, you could probably navigate your way over to Instagram. You could probably type in the search box hashtag Stingrays boot, and you can look at these as we do.
Yeah.
Tom, Ozcat must have ordered a van because, oh my,
Wow.
the guy's got some pickups.
He has got a haul here, hasn't he?
Tell me what you see in this haul that you like
I can
the most.
see Final Fantasy X and X2 on the Switch. That's a good pickup there.
But have you noticed?
He's
also
also-
picked them
yeah.
up on PlayStation 2 Original.
He's a massive fan of that. So he's got himself a Game Boy Color
Yeah, he
with
has,
with a
lime
selection of
green.
games. I see Jurassic Park and a Simpsons game there that I think I had.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
He's got himself that really cool looking stand-up Xbox controller.
Yeah,
with the
very
cool
funky
sort of
that.
rainbow hands on it.
Yeah.
And he's also got himself a copy of Star Wars Empire Strikes Back on the Atari.
Ah, is that an Atari cartridge?
It is, and it also looks with. Now these people have all reached out to us on Instagram. That's
Yeah.
where the hashtag Stingrays boot has got the most traction, and it long time listener, first time poster Podgy Podge has sent in some beautiful spring influenced boot pickups. It looks like
That's
there's
awesome.
a pink PS2 pad nestled next to a copy of Final Fantasy and some pickups there. Resident Evil 7, The Order, amongst other things. Tom, you
Look
wanted
at you
to speak
hinting
about-
there with the order, giving me the eyes of get that finished.
Oh, that was my on-air reply to your "the sand it gets everywhere." It took me a couple of weeks to get the confidence levels up, but I've decided to, through that, make the eyes at you through the medium of the order. You will play it. You will.
Subtle. Retro Charged has
In
picked
fact,
in.
I'm like an order wraith. It's like a ring wraith, but for the order.
I haven't got that far.
That's not a spoiler.
Is it
a
not?
Lord of the Rings reference. I was going to haunt you and follow you down. And like
Okay.
whenever you're not playing it, I can like smell it and I appear. And you like cower. You go down to the bottom of your garden near the compost heap and you cower while I sort of swoop on top of it and make worms come out of it. And if you're not aware, that's obviously a Lord of the Rings reference.
So moving on.
Yes.
Retro Charge picked himself up a copy of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and it's the same one I got at launch. It's like a limited edition box bundle.
Oh, I never noticed this at yours.
The box is up in the loft, preserved.
Oh,
As
actually,
only-
I have to admit, I didn't know which way.
We
this
all
was-
do it. We all keep the
I
boxes
didn't know
where
which
we
way
can.
this was going to go, Tom. I have to admit, I thought you were going to tell me you traded it.
No, never.
I really wanted an Overwatch book, so I tried
So
it.
it came bundled with like a Master Sword statue with
Wow.
a sword set in the stone, which I have in my gamer den. It came with a sound selection CD, so not like an official soundtrack, but samplings of the music, which was cool.
What, like 30-second clips of it? Or-
And no, a bit longer, like just themes of like the world and
Oh, that's pretty cool.
yeah, actual parts of the game music, but not done in like a proper full-on soundtrack
so
way.
you can give Retro Charge the thumbs up for what he's picked up there.
Absolutely, he's got a great purchase there.
Can I take this next one?
You can, of course.
Chris McClum, as we call him on the show.
Our hero.
He's actually got in contact to let us know he loves the way I say his name. Chris has gone and used Stingray's time machine feature to grab himself a JVC boombox. And this guy, such an eclectic mix every time. He's also got himself a Casio Pocket TV boxed. And a man after my own heart here, that sleek, beautiful looking thing, he's gone and got himself a white PSP. Ode Chris McClum out there in the world.
He is living the retro life, isn't he?
Outside of the bunker, we live through the medium of Chris McClum. We pick ourselves up these things. He's one to mix it up a little bit, isn't he, Chris McClum? Please don't feel this has to all be games-related stuff, guys. If you want to mix in something completely out there, we want to see it, don't we?
Yeah.
Battered copy about a friend or?
We're still hoping.
If they rent it, might stop us from watching it for the 4 millionth time.
Yeah. Hayes' collection has got added to his PS2 library with some pretty good pickups here. He's got The Godfather the game,
Yeah.
Destroy All Humans,
Yeah.
Burnout,
Yeah.
SOCOM Navy SEALs,
Good pickup.
Burnout 3,
Yeah.
and
I see you've ignored the one that you didn't know what it was at the top.
yeah, what is that?
It's Dog's Life, Tom!
Dog's
Possibly the best
Life.
game on the PS2.
Was that like The Sims but with dogs?
No!
What is this game?
It was a strange platform game made by Frontier. It was a 3D platform game where you were a dog.
You speak like great experience. Did you own this?
I don't know why. I don't know why.
Or you've been watching YouTube videos of
No,
it?
I bought it at launch. I got that when it first came out at launch on PS2. I did.
You are a crazy man.
It was hailed as a great game, and I tell you what it's got in it. It's got one of the best acoustic versions of Sweet Home Alabama. In the first level, you play around a deep... You're like a dog. You're the dog of a farmer who owns like a deep south farm, so you can imagine how it is and the graphics and all that. I've played it again recently, and the graphics haven't aged well, admittedly.
Okay.
They've got like a stylistic look to them. I think the second level saw you move on. I think... the gameplay feels clumsy now, but at the time it felt quite fresh and new. So I think I've overspoken, but I'm obviously a fan of Dog's Life.
And lastly, Get Switched on. He's taken advantage to fill up on his DS and Wii library.
Got himself a copy of Alone in the Dark there, look.
Yeah. Art Academy on the DS. Juice 2 on the DS. And what's the last one? Cockatoo Racer?
I don't even want to guess now. I'm a little bit nervous. But definitely multiple pronged racer, whichever way you look at it. And that's all the dips in the boot for our listeners. Don't forget to hashtag Stingrays boot or email us for your pickups to be read out on the next episode. Tom, we listen at the window. There's a rumble, and it can only be the
gravel's
sound
going everywhere
of a freshly hunted video pirate guy on the run from FACT, the Federation Against Copyright Theft. He screams up the driveway.
Yeah,
an absolute scoundrel. And that means, listeners, it's time for a peek in what we affectionately call Stingray's boot. What's nestled between some counterfeit nappies and a dodgy copy once again, every single week, like a little tripwire in the grass. I trip every single week over Battle for Endor. Do you know what? If we were skillful enough and not a local ham pop-up radio station, we would record that, re-edit it, and put it back in.
Of course we would.
Of course we would. We've got the time, we've got the production values. These are the new release highlights for this week, May 6th to May 12th, 2019. Listeners, these are out on digital or physical, or will be by the time this podcast is in your region, but could be region dependent. Tom, do you want to have a little rumble in there first?
Yeah, what we got here? For the King, PS4, Switch and Xbox. It's out on May 7th. It's out May 9th on the Switch, though, and May 10th on the Xbox.
There you go.
Must be to do with...
Bagged himself a little exclusive there for a day, 2 days.
The King is dead, murdered by an unknown assailant. Now the once peaceful kingdom of Farrell is in chaos, with nowhere left to turn and stretched beyond her means. The Queen has put out a desperate plea to the citizens of the land to rise up and stem the tide of impending doom. Will you put an end to the chaos? For the King is a challenging blend of strategy, turn-based combat and roguelike elements. Ooh. Each playthrough is unique with procedural maps, quests and events. Explore Farrell in either single-player, local or online co-op. Just remember, adventurer, you do this for riches or for fame, but for your village, for your realm, and lastly, for the King.
For the King! Is that your mummy? Well, I think you want the one on the Switch.
That's not... It did tweak my interest a little bit, but not quite enough to be my pick of the week.
Got you in a headlock like one of the bigger boys and tweaked your boob?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't give in for that one.
You didn't squeal mummy for that one.
I did not.
Well, I'm going to chime
what
in
else
with this.
We got?
Puyo Champions, PS4, PC, Xbox, Switch, May 7th. Easy to learn, tough to master, challenge friends and family in local multiplayer, or compete globally via online matchmaking. Built for all ages, this puzzle game comes with surprisingly competitive edge.
Meh.
Tom, have a little rumble. What's next to the copy of Fortress starring Christopher Lambert? What's that?
Life is Strange 2, Episode 3, Wasteland.
Ooh.
PC, PS4 and Xbox. It's out on May 9th. Sean and Daniel Diaz's journey
In fact,
to Mexico...
what we ought to say is...
Edit?
No, not on edit, no.
No.
If you're a fan of Life is Strange and you haven't yet finished Episode 2, It might be one of those moments where you want to just tune out for a minute.
Let's do a little spoiler warning if you don't want to hear the blurb for episode 3.
20 seconds from now, Tom, go.
Okay. Sean and Daniel Diaz's journey to Mexico continues in episode 3. A few months after the events in episode 2 and the boys escape from Beaver Creek, the brothers experience life on the fringes of society as they befriend a close-knit community of drifters and runaways and become embroiled in illegal cannabis trade among the towering redwood forests of California.
That's an edgy story. I thought it was legal in California. We'll move on.
We don't do politics, do we?
No, we don't.
Sean and Daniel's resolve is put to the test once again as new relationships create fiction between them, and they both learn much about who they are as individuals. Uncertain about their once united purpose, can they stay together, or will their journey together end here? Ooh. Spoiler ending.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you've rejoined us now, and Tom's seamless 20-second read-through of that probably ended about 40 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Came back in to discover that California.
Yeah.
Californication.
What else we got, mate?
Well,
I thought you'd like this one.
The green screen. I've dusted it off. I've been down the local shop. I've bought myself a tin of Pledge. Come back, I've cleaned it up. I've got some of those expensive glass wipes. I've cleaned the screen down. And I've also oiled the joystick. Mummy, please, if I tidy Tom's bedroom and mine, can I have Yakuza Kiwami 2 on the PC? Now you see what all that green screen cleaning was about, Tom.
Oh, right.
Comes out
Getting
May
the chores
9th.
in early.
Well, I love a little bit of Yakuza, don't I?
Yeah.
Kazuma Kiryu, the Dragon of Dojima, must face the ambitious Ryu Goda, the Dragon of Kansei, in an all-out battle between two rival Yakuza clans. An extreme recreation of one of Yakuza's most beloved entries, now in stunning 4K and locked frame rate, much like Highlander, apparently. There can be only one. What do you want, Tom? Wait.
My pick this week.
I wish... Come on. It's not just your pick, is it? What's it called?
Mummy. Please may I have Mortal Kombat 11 on the Switch.
How this show's evolved.
So we did talk about Mortal Kombat 11 last week.
Oh, because we did say that the antagonist in this game holds the keys to the bunker, the one that exists in all of time and space. Rogar, or whatever his blinking name was.
It's a bit delayed on the Switch. It's out May 10th. But
I'm glad it's got a copy. Do you know what? Fantastic.
Yeah, and it seems to run pretty well from what I've seen.
We'll probably have to, through the meaning of the internet, go hit up the boys at Digital Foundry to get their official opinion on that. But I should say it probably does all right. Which means that the last tongue twister has been thrown at me. I look in Stingray's boot, and next to a copy of Sense and Sensibility in the English Patient, and quite why Stingray's got those in there, goodness only knows.
He loves
maybe
romantic,
every once in a little while, under the front seat's a bit too strong.
He is a new romantic though, isn't he? So he likes
village couples.
Yeah.
So he's got himself Sense and Sensibility in the English Patient tucked away with a bottle of red wine. Hokey cokey one that he's gone and got himself.
Chateau Neuf.
Spring is in the air, says Stingray. And enough of the mating rituals of the locals. We move into the Legend of Heroes, Trials of Cold Steel 2, coming to the PS4 May 7th. Now, this has got a little feature in here, Tom, I thought was worth talking about. Remastered with 4K 60 FPS support, a brand new turbo mode. That's not the turbo button mode of the unofficial controller. It's a mode to help explore the map at 2 times speed, battle at 4 times speed. It's got a Japanese dual audio option as well, as 50% additional English voiceover lines, and all DLC included from the start. A sequel that remembers the past. Now, this is the bit I think you will like. Completion save data from any version of the first game carries over. PS4, PS3, PS Vita. Now, that is accommodating.
Yeah.
Players can pick up play from their PS3, PS Vita save data. The link system enhances the game further, with net benefits including healing, guarding and more. And the brand new Overdrive mode allows linked characters to attack up to 3 turns in a row. Recruit allies to prepare for war. Thor's attendees are scattered across the country to gain shops, goods, training modes, systems, and the Trails series' highly celebrated colourful dialogue. Sounds like a nice one coming out on PS4 if you're a
that's an interesting feature as well.
Trials,
it'd be good to see more games do that, really. Like they
The
carry
only one that I
same.
know of in the Sony ecosystem that makes a big deal out of using data from older versions of the game, be it on PS3, PS4, whatever, MLB The Show.
Ah.
Well, there's been a couple of episodes sneak by without an MLB reference, Tom, so I had to crack it in there.
Yeah, I get my say-so with Overwatch. don't I?
Every
So,
week we get some
yeah.
Overwatch news. You look at me with death eyes every time I dare mention MLB or Alan Wake or LA Noire. And before we limp into the After Eight mint, or the mint, that cheap little mint imperial that comes with the
I love that.
bill at the end, don't you think that you've invested all this money in this really nice food and then they serve you up this just pre-packaged mint, just fresh and go?
Yeah, get out.
Give me your money, take your mint and get out.
Give me a big tip.
Now, while they suck seductively on the mint and muse at the bill, Tom, we've got to that part of the show where we say, what are you hoping to play?
Will I finish Days Gone? I don't know.
Oh,
I feel like
he's got his chest out.
Yeah.
Mums is at the door, but he's making out he's the bigger boy out of the two of us.
I reckon. I don't think I'll finish it fully, but that's going to be mainly what I'm putting my time into
What,
this
are you
week.
looking at 100% in the story?
I'm only 25%. I'm sure
I
that's
don't
what I
think
saw
I'm going to
last.
be home enough to do it, but I want to have a good go at it as well at the weekend. I want to have a real long stretch.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be hopefully picking up Rage 2 in a couple of weeks, so I kind of want to get it finished before then.
On that note, picked up Rage 1 recently, £1.50. I'm sure it's $1.50.
Are you going to play that?
I'm going to do a retrospective when Rage 2 when's Rage 2 coming out?
May 14th.
I'm all over it. The whiteboard's obviously all linked up with the release dates. So
We're
maybe
always
we can
ahead of the curve.
Maybe I'll have a play of that prior to, and we'll talk about that in
I think you'll like it, actually.
What you've been playing.
I enjoyed the first one. So.
What else am I going to do? Started a playthrough of Persona 4 on PS2.
Okay.
I have to tell you, Tom, I wish I had some time to put that on for you because it's a work of art. It doesn't even look like a PS2 game.
I've always been tempted to try, especially with having the PS4 now, is to try Persona 5 because it's always got great reviews.
Oh, it's just played Persona with my daughter and just grabbed her from the get-go. She's
Yeah.
a Kingdom Hearts fan. It's just trying. It's the next evolution.
Right, okay.
And she's into the turn-based battling now. What do you mean you can just sit here and press X? I was like, yep. Just remember
It is quite strategic.
Yeah, kind of. I think when the enemies are low enough, you just literally hammer an X to level up, aren't you?
Yeah.
But then when you get into it and the boss battles are more
it's
involved.
like Pokemon back in the day where you just pick like your main move and that's it. You just spam that every battle you get into.
And
then it gets more technical.
I was going to say, and then you find yourself in a situation where you've not built up move A enough, move B enough, and you have to then you hit someone where your main move won't work, and you're like, oh no, I've not invested any time in move B, and now I feel like a complete pony. And as ponies head to the gate to bury their head and trough.
Oh, that was seamless.
That's all we've got time for this week, listeners. As always, thank you for your time, and we look forward to the pleasure of speaking to you again next week. Until then, happy gaming. Remember, there's nothing wrong with being given the unofficial controller. It's what you do with it that counts. See you, Tom.
Cheers, mate.